Good evening, my Benzinga friends and family. This is John with Beginner Trading, and we're back today with another penny stock show. We've had some really exciting stuff happen this weekend with Bitcoin ripping up over 44,000 just now. We also have a ton of penny stocks to look at. We've got some strategies to go over, and one thing I really wanted to do in today's show is detail the current system that I'm trading. I'll tell you this, the current system I'm using is the most profitable system I've ever used. It is 100% legitimate and profitable, and I'm going to break down a lot of that information in today's show, and so make sure you stick around and watch to the very end of that show. While we're getting started here, while we let everyone go ahead and get joined up for this show, why don't you go ahead and call out some stocks that you want to see us look at while we let everyone join the stream, and then after that, we'll go ahead and look at the top penny stock movers. We'll build a watch list. We'll talk about why, where, and how they're moving, and we'll look at the major levels that you want to pay attention to with a lot of these penny stocks. Before we go into this, I'm going to preface the rest of this show with, when we say penny stocks, I'm specifically talking about small cap stocks, and if you don't know what small cap is, the market capitalization is the outstanding shares times the price. Basically, small cap means less established, smaller float companies generally, not always, but those are really what we're focusing on in this video. I don't really trade a lot of OTC stocks or anything like that. It's mostly, low float NASDAQ or major listed exchange stocks. And so that's what we're talking about in today's video. But again, we're going to detail the system that I use and that I've been using every day in a really understandable and thorough way. So make sure to stick around. And yeah, what's up, guys? MMAT. MMAT is a really important one. Super interesting stock, getting a lot of hype at the moment for MMAT. We have CRO, and we can take a look at MMAT. It's definitely pretty interesting here if we zoom in. I know this one used to be TRCH, and I've traded TRCH for years and years now. And MMAT is definitely one of those ones that is interesting enough to pay attention to, just based off of the current, size of the following it has. There's a ton of traders watching this. It's kind of one of the newest, dare I say, Wall Street bets type of stocks. And a lot of people are talking about it. They had that special dividend that came out, a while back that had a lot of people interested, ripping up to 2170s and then coming back down to the 330s. But again, this one used to be TRCH. You can see TRCH is no more, but now it's MMAT, so it's definitely one to pay attention to. We have Steve say MMAT has been my most confusing yet, and it's certainly understandable why. I mean, okay, so MMAT had that special dividend that dropped, and a lot of traders bought into that special dividend, but once that happened, the stock dropped like a huge percentages, like 30% plus, and a lot of traders got stuck in that, and I know a lot of traders are holding it because of that. And I'm not even saying MMAT is a bad company, but what I am saying is that I know there's a lot of people bag holding MMAT right now, and the following for MMAT is pretty large overall, and so that's something that we're definitely going to be watching in the next few weeks to see if anything crazy happens with this one. I hear a lot of people talking about MMAT. I don't know if it's necessarily a short squeeze stock, but I think it's more of just a momentum and hype stock that we can watch and pay attention to, and ultimately, keep an eye on. I see CRO. We can glance at CRO. Again, if you're giving me OTC stocks, they're not really my specialty. I'm not showing anything for CRO. I'm seeing LLUS. No, I'm not showing anything there either. Look at Bitcoin, though, guys. Honestly, this is the craziest story of the weekend, and a lot of stuff is moving just in after hours. Bitcoin ripping up to $44,360 right now. That's a pretty crazy move, in all honesty. And we're going to see what happens. We have David say MMAT just had its second merger. I checked out their products. Seems to be they have good products with a good source of demand. And that's absolutely true. I've seen their products as well. I have a really supportive member of the community over at Beginner Trading. His name is Uncle Smokey, and he makes a ton of videos about MMAT, about what's going down with their company. And so, y'all should go check him out. He definitely talks a lot about MMAT, knows a lot more about it than I do. But yeah, guys, so again, we're going to let everybody get joined up. If you had any stocks that you want us to take a look at, list them now. We're going to give it about another minute or so, and then we're going to start going over our watch list for tomorrow. Again, just to show you guys, my current strategy results here. Let me pull up TraderView so you can see what my system's looking like. And again, we're going to be going over a lot of this information in today's show about how I'm able to get these results. And again, this is one of those systems that is 100% legitimate. I am extremely excited to trade it, and it's been one of like I said, one of my most profitable systems I've ever used. If we look at my graph here, and I'm not making huge money, just to put it into perspective, I'm not claiming to be an expert, but what I am saying is that this system has enabled me to only have 4 or 5 losses per month trading it. And so in today's show, we're going to go over the strategies that we use. We're going to go over the mentalities, the mindsets you need to have while you're trading these multiple different strategies, the indicators we use, and all that good stuff. And again, these are my results. It's a scalping system, a high volume scalping system where we take many trades every day, and then we just let a small edge in each trade accumulate throughout the day to get into a lot of trades and have an edge to where we're ending. If you look at this, we're ending 83% of days, or 81% of days green. And my accuracy is not super high, to be honest, 56, 57%. It's not crazy high, but my profit factor is almost 3 to 1. And you can see my average winning trade is over twice as big as my average losing trade. And so it's a very profitable system. And again, we're going to talk about that a little bit later after we build this watch list. I see David mention SESN, and that's definitely something that we can keep an eye on and pay attention to. Usually when I look at stocks like this, I'm looking at the daily chart. It's not really something I would really want to day trade. The volume's just a little bit too low, a little bit too small of a range for me to have success day trading it. But if we glance over at the daily chart, I think this daily chart's incredibly strong. I've seen this one before. I think that some major levels that we could pay attention to on this specific chart are 35 or 350 right here. I think 350 has been confirmed not only as a resistance level, but then after that, it's been confirmed multiple times as a support level here. And so I think 350 is a really relevant level that a lot of other traders are ultimately paying attention to. We also have some highs up here that we could watch. The first one that kind of sticks out to me, it might not seem like it's been confirmed a ton, but just because it's a $0.50 right there, we're going to look at 450. We also have 475 right there, a $0.25 level that might be interesting is well above us. Right around where we are now, though, I want to see if it holds over $4. You can see $4 right here. It's been confirmed throughout the last few days. It was right around the low from Friday. It had a lot of support and resistance there from the previous few days. And so $4 underneath this is kind of my line in the sand level that I'm paying attention to. And again, above that, we've got 450, we've got 475. And then if we can break over 5 and break over that 52-week high, then I think it's a really interesting play. But again, really like the daily chart for SESN. Of course, I don't know. I can't guarantee any of this stuff is going to work. I don't know what SESN is going to do, but it's definitely an interesting one. And again, a very strong daily chart in my opinion. Okay, so now with all of that out the way, now that we've kind of given everybody a little bit of time to go ahead and get joined up, let's go ahead and do our top penny stocks of the week. We'll go ahead and glance at our favorite penny stocks this week and, see what we have on our list today, guys. Okay, guys, so like I said at the beginning of the show, what really sparked some momentum today, or what really sparked some momentum over the weekend, and especially on Friday, is Bitcoin's major rip. Bitcoin is absolutely pushing up huge. And, I was really lucky with this latest Bitcoin play. I dip bought Bitcoin at 31,000. At 31,000, I dip bought Bitcoin. I'm currently up about 30% on that play. And again, you can see here, beautiful move for Bitcoin, beautiful hold right around that 30,000 level that I bought into. And now we're creeping up to some previous resistance levels like 45,000 and 50,000. And so with this rise with Bitcoin, there's a lot of stocks that are ultimately moving. And the first one we're looking at is BDR. BDR, I couldn't find a catalyst with this one, but I'm assuming it's related to Bitcoin in one way or another. This one did start to rip in after hours. And if we look at it, you can see it's gapping up from about 150s to that 171 level. Now, I think it's really interesting because we have some really isolated levels. And one of my favorite things about attacking momentum day trades is looking for really isolated levels. And you got to understand why analyzing these levels works. And it's because everybody else sees these levels. So to give you an example of what I mean here, if we look at 179, this is a pretty isolated level up there. It's the high of pre-market, of course, but it's just really obvious. And so when you have a really obvious level like this, other people start to pay attention to it. And with so many people watching it, since it's so isolated up here, whenever we actually break that level, it's logical to assume that we might get a burst of momentum from that level break. And now, of course, I don't want to just blindly buy it after it breaks this pre-market high right here. But what I am interested, or I guess this after hours high right here, but I guess what I'm saying is if we could break this 179 level and then specifically hold support over it, then that's really going to renew a lot of bullish sentiment, and that's going to make me super interested in BDR here. Glancing at the daily chart, this one is an okay longer term chart. A lot of the time when it spikes, it ultimately fails. And so, it's one of those charts that it's not great. It's not terrible necessarily here, but we do have a lot of resistance levels above us that we should be paying attention to. Specifically, 150 is right here. I know that's underneath us, but we also have 180, which is the level we just talked about. And then above that, we have $2, which is a whole dollar psychological level right here. And then we have these highs from the last few months up there at about 230, 225 or so. So those are the levels that we're watching for BDR. It's not my favorite one right now in pre-market, but it's definitely worthwhile for me to at least pay attention to in the opening bell tomorrow. Because again, for me as a scalper and as a day trader, a lot of these are going to fail. Most penny stocks are just terrible companies. Not all of them, of course. There's some diamonds in the rough, if you will. But most penny stocks are just not super favorable companies. A lot of them are new. A lot of them are really young companies. And so with that, you have to treat them as such and then understand the potential for a failure or a success. And so that's what we're going to kind of do with BDR here. I'm not going to bet the house on it, but we're certainly going to watch these major levels that we talked about to see what's ultimately going to happen with this. We have Enter say, I can't wait to better understand the VWAP. Thanks. Of course, Enter, listen, I've got a lot of knowledge. The VWAP is probably something that is my specialty. I love the VWAP, and the VWAP can be a very, very powerful indicator if you learn how to use it correctly. And so we are going to be talking about that in today's video. So yeah, make sure you stick around to the end. Once we get through looking at our watch list, we'll go ahead and talk about that for sure. All right. So now that we've looked at Blonder Tongue Labs, which is BDR, we do have a bunch of other stocks to take a look at. The next one we're watching is FTFT. And if you know about Bitcoin and related stocks, FTFT should be memorable because this one has ripped up and kind of had some crazy volatility in the past. You could see earlier this year, it ripped all the way up to almost $12, 11.20s plus whatever it gapped up in pre-market. And it did fade back down some, mostly from Bitcoin's demise. But now that Bitcoin is starting to be a little bit healthier, we do have a lot of these Bitcoin-related penny stocks starting to make some rips, including FTFT and after hours. Now, if we look at the fundamental data behind FTFT, we can see a few different things that we should pay attention to with it. The first thing that we're looking at here is the key data points, and it has about 52 million about a 52 million float, which is not huge, but it's not small either. And so, we're looking at some range with this specific stock, but we're not going to look for it to rip up to 100 or anything like that. It is Bitcoin related. And so with that, there might be some really good sympathy plays that you can get involved with. If you see Bitcoin start to rip, then maybe you could take some sympathy trades on FTFT on a short or long-term basis. And that's always a consideration with these type of stocks that are driven by other commodities or assets like Bitcoin. So to look on the technical side of FTFT, I'm looking at this 370 high up here. Again, another really isolated after hours, extended hours high that a lot of other traders see and are paying attention to. Even if they're just on TD Ameritrade, for instance, TD Ameritrade automatically documents the high right here. And so with just this, so many other traders are watching this level. And again, that can mean a number of different things, and we'll understand it a little bit more as we talk about our trading and system later on in today's show. But again, what you got to understand with technical analysis is the more obvious and self-evident it is, the more sway it's usually going to have over the market. And the reason for that is because if everybody's watching 370s and they see that as a resistance level, for instance, then, long traders are typically going to sell as we approach that level. And what does selling cause? Selling usually causes drops in the stock's price. And so in turn, the more people that are watching a specific level, the more sway that level is going to have over that stock's movement. And so with 370 being a really obvious and isolated level up there, a lot of traders are ultimately watching and paying attention to it. And so with that, we want to watch it and pay attention to it. So 370 is definitely a level that we could take a look at. We can also look at half and whole dollars, which are psychological levels. And these are levels that I really pay attention to with my system as well. Again, just because everybody else naturally gravitates to watching those type of levels. big psychological levels like half and whole dollars, and sometimes even quarter dollars, are going to have sway over a stock's movement a lot of the time for those exact reasons. And so those are, a few that we're looking at with this specific stock as well. Again, looking at the long-term chart, it's okay. It dropped mostly around here just because, in my guess, is because Bitcoin dropped, and we're going to see what happens with it. So we'll come back to this one after we look at a few other ones. And yeah, let me know what you think about FTFT. Another stock that we're paying attention to is BTBT. Now, this is a stock that everybody should be paying attention to as well. BTBT is a Bitcoin mining stock, and so with that, it directly benefits from Bitcoin's rise in price. And so since Bitcoin is making big, crazy moves, then of course we're going to have some momentum in Bitcoin related stocks like FTFT, BDR, and BTBT, which is again a Bitcoin mining stock. A lot of people have been watching this as well and paying attention to it. And so we'll see what happens. I've been trading this one a ton this week. And really for our system breakdown, we're going to go over a few different examples of different strategies that we traded on BTBT from this past week. And so make sure to pay attention to those as well. I see somebody mentioning NSAV, ride AAB, waiting for September. Yes, sir. And we'll see what happens. Of course, guys, if you've been wondering why the market has been a little bit slower lately, we're right in the middle of July. It's a very slow time in the stock market. There's not a ton of traders that are ultimately trading right now. A lot of people are on vacation. A lot of people like me, I have 2 kids. I'm getting my kids ready for school and all that stuff. And so the market has been a little bit slow. But I will say this past week, the market did kick it up a notch and start to make some moves. And so I was really happy to see that, although Friday wasn't necessarily a great day. Hey, thank you. Thank you, Benzinga, Mitch over there. I appreciate the support, brother, for sure. But yeah, so we're looking at BTBT, and we'll see what happens with it. Again, if we look at a lot of these, they're going to be Bitcoin related. And so if Bitcoin absolutely crashes on Monday, then it's logical to assume that we're going to get some pullbacks in some of these Bitcoin related stocks. And so I'm not saying you should marry these stocks. These are certainly not recommendations to buy, but generally as a day trader and swing trader, what I usually do is I build a watch list, and then maybe, 30% of that watch list will do something that looks favorable, and then I can attack that moves. The way I describe it is I'm a reactionary trader as opposed to a predicting trader. I'm not trying to predict what these stocks are going to do. A lot of penny stocks are really spontaneous and random. Instead, I would choose to just react to what they actually do instead, if that makes sense. And so it's certainly the truth with BTBT and a lot of these other penny stocks as well. But again, BTBT, to be honest, has been trending really, really well all the way back since July. So July, this thing has been trending really, really nicely since July 26th. It's only had 2 red days all the way back from, multiple, about 10, it looks like here. So 2 out of 10, 80% of the days it's been over the last week or two have been green. And so really solid trending here. Again, though, we'll watch it, we'll pay attention to it, but we're not going to bet the house on it. And that's a universal theme that you're going to see a lot with my type of watch list, is that we're going to react to this one if it sets up correctly. But again, we're not going to bet the house on it. These are penny stocks. I do like BTBT, though. I do like the trend. And yeah, it's certainly one that we're going to be paying attention to come tomorrow, Monday. All right, so the next stock that we're looking at that's on today's list is KXIN. And now this one actually gapped down a little bit in after hours, but it had some really strong moves coming in on Friday. This is one of the stocks that I wish I would have traded more on Friday. I think I got into a few trades from this one, but some really nice rips after the opening bell. And this one was catalyst driven, and we'll go over that catalyst right now so you can understand why this one's specifically moving. So KXIN is Kayaxin Auto Holdings. They're trading higher according to Benzinga, and this news is from Benzinga, a great platform, by the way. It's moving higher after the company announced it's going to establish a new energy vehicle business unit. They said the move has been made in the context of the Chinese government's steady support for accelerated development of EVs and the rapid growth of the EV market in China. They also operate as a used car dealership in the People's Republic of China, and they also provide financing channels to their customers through partnerships with financial institutions and value-added services to its customers, including insurance, extended warranties, and after-sales services. Now, with this being an EV play, I'm curious to see what the other EV stocks are doing in the market currently. We've got Tesla, which had a pretty rough day on Friday. But since this is kind of one of Tesla's competitors here, it's logical to assume that this one's moving up as Tesla falls back down some. And so, yeah, we're certainly going to be watching KXIN as well and looking into the financial numbers behind it here. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what the float is on this one. To me, I've traded this one a lot before as well, but I do want to see what the float is here. And we're going to use Benzinga for that. And you can see this here. So the float is 94 million, according to Benzinga. So again, this is a float that I wouldn't really say it's huge, but it's certainly not small. And so with that, we're going to take that into our account to see if we're going to trade this thing tomorrow. But again, what it ultimately revolves around is whether it sets up correctly. You know, we're not trying to predict what these are going to do. Again, most penny stocks will fail. And I'm not saying KXIN will, but we're going to wait and react to how it acts at the opening bell, if that makes sense. And we'll see how it goes. You know, larger float stock, great momentum from Friday, catalyst driven. And, you know, ultimately, one of the biggest signs of strength when you're looking at these penny stocks is how well does it hold its gains? And this one is holding its gains pretty well. You know, this one ripped up all the way from $1.60 to $3.37 on Friday, and it's only at 290s right now. So it's holding a large majority of its moves, and that's a pretty good sign. We do have some support levels underneath it. We got 275 that I'm going to pay attention to, a $0.25 that has been confirmed multiple times Friday. We do have some highs above us. The high from Friday was 337, so we're certainly going to pay attention to that as well here if we want to look at these highs up here. And so we got a lot of support underneath this that we can play off of. The VWAP is right there at 270s. We have that high up there at 330s. And if we glance at the daily chart, you know, we've got some resistance up there. I'm looking at $4 if we can get that high on Friday as the first major resistance level, maybe 350s right here. You know, we could also pay attention to that as well, it being $0.50 right above that current high at 337. And so this one's certainly interesting. And, you know, if this thing can hold its gains in pre-market tomorrow, then I'm certainly going to be paying attention to and watching this one. And so let me know what you think about KXIN in the chat, and we'll see how it goes. Hey, of course. Hey, happy to help. Aloha. Thanks for the initiative. Of course, man. All right, so now that we've looked at KXIN, I have one more penny stock that I want to talk about today, and that penny stock is MVST. Now, MVST is a Wall Street Bets related stock, and it's certainly one that a lot of people should be paying attention to. If we look at let me pull up MVST real quick. But if we look at some of these sources, like we have Ape Wisdom, which shows you what really Wall Street Bets and the ape community are watching here. And you can see MVST is number 2. Let's refresh this to make sure it's the most current. So MVST actually moved down a spot to number 3. But this is out of the SPY, which is the S&P 500, the mini S&P 500, really. AMC is number 2, and MVST is number 3. And this is also a relatively new stock. And so it's definitely trending with Wall Street Bets. It's definitely a stock that they're watching and paying attention to, and understandably so. I mean, if we look at this one's put in some pretty big moves since its IPO. It recently broke highs and started to rip up over the previous high from this IPO at around $10. And it's currently sitting at over $12 now. And so very strong move for a pretty recent IPO that Wall Street Bets is paying attention to. And because of that, again, to go back to the logic we used before, if everybody else is watching it, I'm watching it too. Is because volume plays such a huge important factor in momentum trading that I'm trying to find what everybody else is watching. And if everybody else is watching MVST, including Wall Street Bets, then I want to watch it too. And because of that, I certainly will. So yeah, let me know what you think about all these in the chat, guys. And again, we're going to detail our system in today's show. So make sure to stick around. We're just about to get started doing that. And we're going to break down a few different strategy examples, different stocks that you can look to target the system on, what the conditions we use for this specific system is, and all that good stuff. And so make sure to stick around. And while you're here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Benzinga is a great resource for traders, super useful. I love their platform. I love their software. It's very thorough. You know, a lot of people, we live stream every weekday morning on YouTube, and a lot of people think that the few scanners that I put on stream are the end-all be-all of Benzinga, but that is not true at all. They have news releases, Benzinga Squawk. They have fundamental data that you could delve into. They have all these different tools for traders that you can use to profit from in the market. And so, again, incredibly useful stuff. And, yeah, we can check out MVST using them right now just to give you an example of it. So here's MVST. We're going to look into what the actual numbers are. I'm showing 300 million outstanding shares, so we know the float is at least smaller than that. And again, looking into the news section here, we've got a lot of different things that pop this thing up, but mostly what this thing is, the reason this thing is moving is from the high interest from Wall Street bets. That's one of the major reasons MVST is making moves again, is because Wall Street bets is ultimately paying attention to and watching it. What I'm really curious about is looking at this 1335 level up here. If we break that, I think there's going to be a lot of bullish sentiment in this specific stock. I'm also looking at $10 underneath this. And you got to understand, this stock is putting in a pretty big range. And so we're going to watch some major levels. We've got $11 that was confirmed as well. We're basically looking at all the major whole and half dollar levels, as well as the major isolated highs up here at like 1335. So if we could watch those levels again, if we break 1335, I'm certainly going to be watching MVST, and I'm probably going to be watching this one tomorrow anyway. Just again, if we look at 8 Wisdom, for instance, which is again, it tracks how much Wall Street Bets is watching specific stocks. MVST is number 3 on that list, followed by CLOV and GameStop and all that stuff. And so with Wall Street Bets watching this thing, I am certainly going to be watching this as well. So let me know what you think about MVST in the chat, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Now that that's all said and out the way, we're going to go into the system segment of this show. If you follow along with my channel, you know I'm a high volume scalper. I scalp the markets, and I scalp both penny stocks and mid and high caps. It's not certainly restricted to just penny stocks. I scalp AMD is probably the stock that I scalp the most. And really, we can look at my system to see what stocks that I've traded the most here. And I'm pretty sure, let me see. Looking into this, let me see if I can find out where. Let's see if I can find out what stocks I traded the most. I know they used to have a section for it. Let's see if we go down here. Reports view. I don't know if I can find it here, but regardless, interesting data. But yeah, so okay, so let's go ahead and start talking about our system. Now, there's a few different conditions that you really want to understand if you're looking to trade this system. And those are a few things that we're going to talk about right now. The first thing that you really want to understand is that if you want to learn the system I'm using to scalp these penny stocks, the strategies are important. Sure, the strategies will help you. But what's more important is the technical analysis that you're using in each individual trade. A lot of new traders specifically get really stuck on learning specific strategies. They want to memorize and kind of condition themselves to trade different specific strategies. The problem with that, though, is that as a new trader breaks into the market and kind of starts to learn technical trading, whether they're day trading, swing trading, whatever, they have to have a fundamental base. They have to have a technical base. They have to have a base in technical analysis over everything else, really, I would say. Because if you're trading momentum, you need to understand why stocks are making the moves they do. You need to understand why strategies specifically work. And if you don't have a good base of technical analysis, you're simply not going to understand that. You're just going to be copycatting somebody else's system or somebody else's strategy. But if you can really learn how to document and analyze charts the correct way, then you can kind of tweak and create your own strategies fairly simply, fairly easily, I guess I should say. And, we're going to talk about that a little bit in today's episode as well. So the first thing I really want to talk about is half and whole dollars. And I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but half and whole dollars are major levels that you need to condition yourself. If you're going to trade the same systems that I'm using, you got to condition yourself to look at half whole dollars and sometimes even quarter dollars. If a stock's support level is right around, say, 76 or 77, I'm usually just going to round down to that 75 level. Because again, if I can round to an even, or to a nice round number, or a nice quarter dollar, a nice half dollar, then I understand that it's going to have a little bit more sway over a more obscure level like, say, 78 or 83 or whatever that is, right? So the first thing that you want to condition yourself to do is simply to watch half and whole dollars. Now, we're going to look at BTBT for a few different examples in today's system building. And you can see what I mean by this. Okay, so as we look at this chart here, we can see that this level right here at around $17 it pulled up and tested this level multiple different times. Now, sure, it broke over it a little bit and it got to 1220 right there. But a lot of these, if we zoom in, are just up wicks. What this stock was really following in this situation was this $17 level. Now, it might have broken over it a little bit, but the general rule of thumb here is that you want to round a little bit here. You want to look at the entire range around the $17 level. And that way you can really understand what's happening here. Because again, if a trader is playing off of $17, they're not going to exit precisely at $17. They're not going to, buy it precisely at $17. Instead, they might get in at 1702 or 1705 or, 1694 or whatever it is, right? But we're going to look at the entire range around that whole dollar. And that is the level we're specifically attacking. And it'll give you a little bit more broad understanding of that stock's technical movement. And BTBT right here is a great example. Again, this is all the whole dollar of 17 support and resistance. That is what it's ultimately playing off of. And that is what it's really battling throughout this entire time. And again, you can see when we actually broke over that $17 level, which was right here. We broke over that $17 level and all the highs around it. Look at the volume increasing. Look at the sentiment change. And that's really what we're targeting here is sentiment changes. Once we break over a major level that has been tested and battled over and over again, the sentiment changes. Other traders gain confidence in this specific direction. And so what happens when they gain confidence? They buy. What happens when they buy? The stock price moves up, volume comes in, and you can see that, really confirmed on this specific chart. And so I hope that makes sense, guys, for all those paying attention at home. I hope understanding where these technical levels come in and how to approach them with your trading. I hope all of that makes sense because, again, nothing is perfect in trading. It's never going to stop directly at the whole dollar of 17. I mean, it will sometimes, but it's not always going to be perfect. And you have to look at the entire range around a whole dollar or a half dollar or a quarter dollar even sometimes if you want to understand the true movement in technical terms of that specific stock. Now, the next thing I want to talk about with this specific system, and we're going to go over a few different concepts and conditions, and then I'm going to show you an example of this specific strategy in, with a trade that I took last week. And I might use Thinkorswim on demand. I guess I'll leave that up to you because that could be useful as well. Now, we're going to start talking about the VWAP. And again, we can use BTBT on this specific day as an example, but I think there's better days for you to really understand how we're using the VWAP here. Okay, so, we can use both of these days, and we'll look at both of these days as an example on how you're really using the VWAP. All right, so the first thing you want to understand is that the VWAP is an intraday trend indicator that allows you to spot and identify the current intraday trend and then use that data to your advantage. And so when you're thinking about the VWAP, at least when we're speaking of day trading, you're looking at the short-term trend of that specific stock. You're looking at that current intraday trend of that specific stock. And so to put it into perspective here, with BTBT, a lot of the time the opening bell, that opening 30 minutes is not a really favorable time to trade. The reason for that is because in that first 15 to 30 minutes after the opening bell, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of kind of craziness, a lot of spontaneous movement in that stock, and it simply hasn't really picked a trend yet. And so throughout this time, you can see we're mostly in a sideways trend. We're going over the VWAP and back down and over the VWAP and back down. And when that's happening, the VWAP is telling you, okay, hey, this is in a sideways trend. It's not super favorable. It's probably not a good time to attack it. Why? Because it's in a sideways trend. Once we break out of this specific range, we break back over the VWAP and break these previous highs, then we see, okay, the VWAP is telling us that we're in a upward trend. And there's a lot of confirmations that show us why we're in an upward trend. Obviously, we're moving up. I think that's the most self-evident example. But you can see every time we pull back around the VWAP area, this stock continues to move up. Every single time it moves down to test the VWAP, it continues to move up. And so this stock is maintaining over the VWAP in an upward trend. When you see a stock that has confirmed the VWAP multiple times like this, that is where you're looking to attack these many different strategies that we're using. One of the most favorable times to attack a specific strategy is to attack a specific stock, is when a stock is specifically maintaining a really obvious and self-evident trend. That is your time to attack these different stocks. That is when it's the most favorable. And it makes a ton of sense why. It should be really, really obvious. Why? Is because it's maintaining a really obvious trend. Other traders see the trend. They're more likely to buy. That propels the stock up. And, these pullbacks are just getting bought into by a bunch of different traders, again, who are identifying the fact that it's maintaining a specific trend. That is how we're going to use the VWAP, is if it's maintaining above the VWAP, we're in a short-term upward trend. If we're maintaining below the VWAP, we're in a short-term downward trend. And using that, it'll tell you what the trend is. And almost all intraday trading and trading in general really is based around trend identification. And so with that said, the VWAP is an incredibly powerful tool that is used to identify the trend. And that's exactly what you see here on BTBT. Now, if we go to another day's example, same exact thing. Okay, what do we have here? We have at the opening bell, we've been confirming the VWAP, maintaining over it in a beautiful trend. Again, throughout this entire time here, this is your zone to attack long bullish strategies. Why? Because we're actually maintaining a specific trend. We're maintaining a specific direction over the VWAP. And I want you to think about it like this. After you identify a specific trend, you could say, okay, well, BTBT is maintaining in an upward trend over the VWAP. Think about if you just bought every pullback that happened. It would work a large majority of the time if you can identify a specific trend and then buy the pullbacks from that. And this is what I do, to be honest. This is part of my big, my scalping system. It may seem really simple, but the reason it works is because other people think it works. Other people identify that trend. Other people are attacking that trend with me. And so every pullback we get, we're usually getting a confirmed bounce right back up. And then you can see once we actually break below the VWAP, we maintain this beautiful trend. You can see, up, we're staying over the VWAP, hovering over it. Every pullback we get, it's ripping up and holding in that specific direction over the VWAP in a really self-evident way. Once we eventually break under the VWAP, which you can see happens much later in the day, that's when the trend changes. And so back here, since we're maintaining over the VWAP, we're maintaining an upward trend. That's the ideal time to attack a long position. And it's one of the reasons you'll never see me take a long position if a stock is below the VWAP. I just won't do it. Why? Because I'm not going to trade counter trend strategies. I'm not going to go against the trend. To me, that doesn't make any sense. If I'm going to take a trade, I'm going to trade with the trend every single time. And it should be a really understandable reason why. But again, once we start to break under the VWAP, a lot of people will say, oh, the VWAP doesn't work. The stock doesn't respect it. The stock's just chopping over and under it like this. It's just chopping over and under it. They say, oh, the VWAP doesn't work. The VWAP is precisely work. The VWAP is telling you precisely what you need in this specific situation. Sure, is the stock maintaining in a direction over or under it? No. But in that situation, what is the VWAP telling you? The VWAP's telling you it's neutral. It's sideways. It's not a super favorable time to attack the specific strategy. Why? Because it's not really respecting a specific trend. It's sideways. It's neutral. It's going to chop you out if you jump into some of these positions. And so that is how you use the VWAP, even when it's crossing over and under it, if that makes sense. Again, you're using the VWAP for trend identification. And a sideways trend is a trend. When a stock is going in a sideways direction, that's the VWAP telling you something. The VWAP's telling you, hey, this is neutral, it's sideways, not super favorable. And you have to have the discipline and selectivity to avoid stocks while they're trending like that. Because again, it's just not a really favorable time to trade them. Okay, so that's the basics of the VWAP and how to use it. Again, the VWAP is for identifying short-term trends. That is what you need to understand when you're using it. And just to show you a short example, let's find a day where BTBT is trending down. Actually, I think this example is really, really nice. Okay, so again, we have the same type of thing here. And let's just analyze this stock using only the VWAP. So we can see here, again, that opening 20, 30 minutes is kind of indecisive. But once we get this break over the VWAP, boom, we have a beautiful upward trend to attack. Again, if you look at this, when we pull back to the VWAP, beautiful bounces, beautiful confirmations of the current upward trend. And this is the ideal time to attack long strategies. Once we get this break underneath it, look at it. It completely changes. Instead of the upward trend, the VWAP saying, hey, look, this is in a downward trend. And again, every little bounce testing the VWAP, what does it tell us? It says, hey, look, we're still downward trending. The bears are in control is really what this means. And so again, if you're a short trader, you can short into these pops. That's what short traders do. They attack these pops. They attack these all-day faders, which is what this is for BTBT. And so you can use the VWAP in both ways, and it's incredibly powerful. Again, you can see the sentiment changes. You can see the sentiment change just from the stock breaking below this VWAP level. And so again, maintaining this beautiful upward trend, and then boom, huge kill candle, huge drop underneath the VWAP. And what happens here? Everybody loses confidence in their position. And so when this drop happens, long traders are waiting for small bounces to cover into, to get a little bit better, cover, to lose a little bit less. They're waiting for small bounces to cover into. And so what happens? We get these bounces. Long traders are like, okay, this is my time to exit, break even. They sell. Boom, pushes it right back down. We bounce again. More long traders are saying, okay, hey, this is my time to get a little bit better exit. Boom, they sell. And that causes this downward trend. And again, it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. But with all of that said, I think you could probably identify the reason the VWAP is so powerful is because if you can get a good grasp and understanding of using it, then you can pretty accurately predict whether it's a penny stock, whether it's a mid and high cap, regardless of what kind of stock it is, you can pretty accurately predict a specific trend. And if you can catch it while it's trending well, there's a lot of profit to be made using the VWAP. And it's one of the main components of my specific system and strategy that we're talking about. It's just waiting for a stock to confirm a specific trend, looking for where the sentiment is, and then attacking it when it's giving us a favorable trend. If we're shorting stocks, we're looking for trends like this. We're looking for little bounces to short into like this. And we'll do this over and over and over again, taking small gains using small size. And same thing, when it's a long position, when we have this really confirmed upward trend, we're just attacking these little pullbacks to major confirmed support levels. And we'll do that over and over and over again until it stops working, basically until it breaks underneath here. And if it does, no sweat. We'll just move on and say, okay, well, once this trend's confirmed, we'll short into that. And again, works really, really well, really powerful way to trade. Anyways, let me check back up on the comments. What's up, Chris? He says BT going over 30 this week. Certainly a possibility, man. Certainly a possibility. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see for BT. Not a tiny float by any means, but it's super interesting, and it's definitely one that has been trending pretty well over the last few weeks for sure. All right, so now that we have the basic understanding of the VWAP and we have the basic understanding of how we use half and whole dollars as confirmation, and we use them in our trades to give us a small edge in the market. The next thing that we want to talk about, guys, let me move this comment out the way. The next thing that we really want to talk about is the next thing we really want to talk about is we'll go ahead and break down the specific strategies that we're using. And we're going to use BT as an example here. So let's see what we did on Friday from this. All right, so with BT, we're using the VWAP to judge sentiment changes. All right, and so one of my favorite ways to approach these strategies is, we have this sideways range that we drew out earlier. And this is a trade that I actually got into last week. If you watch the stream, we day trade live on stream for free every weekday morning on YouTube, youtube.com/beginnertrading. And I'll post that link in a little bit if you want to watch me trade these strategies. But what we really like to do is we wait for these ranges to break. We drew this range earlier, and what our goal is to identify that sideways trend and wait for a stock to break out of it. And so this is not a really super favorable time to trade. Why? Because we're mostly neutral and sideways. Just not a really favorable time to trade. Not something that will generally give you good results if you're looking to day trade or swing trade. It's just sideways market movement, sideways action. Not really favorable. But our goal is to wait for a clear and clean break of this range. And so that's exactly what we got here at about 10:05 market time, is we got the break of this range. And once we break a really confirmed range like this, that's when we can start to attack a pullback. As long as we're over the VWAP and we have that beautiful support level to buy into, we bought these pullbacks here. We buy them, scalp out on the bounce. We buy this, scalp out on the bounce. And again, it's really powerful if you can identify that range using the VWAP, using just technical analysis overall. We're simply attacking this range here. And so if we look at the high of the days, and this is something we talked about in the video I dropped, we're looking at these levels and we're trying to find the range that we want to attack. And so once we get this range break, we can buy here and plan to sell before we hit these highs. I'm very rarely holding it all the way to the high of the day levels up here unless we get a huge rip, but we're buying it down here and we're covering anywhere before we get up here. You know, we're not trying to hold through this high of the day level because experienced traders are taking profit at these high of the day points. You know, a lot of new traders get involved in day trading. And, you know, for some reason, and I'm no exception. I'm not trying to sound self-righteous here. I'm no exception. I certainly did this a ton as a new trader. But for some reason, a lot of new traders, the only sign of strength they know is high of the day breaks. You know, so a stock breaks a high of the day level and they buy it, right? That is going to fake traders out a huge percentage of the time. And the reason it's going to fake them out is because experienced traders are attacking that range. And so experienced traders like me and a lot of other ones are taking profit at the top of this range here. And so if you buy it right when this thing breaks, a lot of the time it's just going to slam down here. A lot of the time it's just going to reject. And so a little bit more favorable way to approach this, again, is just to wait for it to break and then buy that pullback instead. And again, you can see that here. We waited for this range to break and we bought this pullback. We covered before it got up to this level. And again, other traders are doing it too. That's why we have these rejections up here anyway, is because other traders are selling there as well. And then again, we can wait for this range to break. And then this range finally broke. And instead of buying the high of the day level, we can buy a small pullback afterwards. So we get the high of the day break. We get the move over this range here from 1320. And again, instead of just buying it right here blindly into the high, we instead wait for the pullback and then buy into that pullback level right here. And you can, again, the cool thing, once you start to understand this kind of technical movement, is that you can see the volume confirm what I'm saying here. Again, this range breaks. Other traders start buying these pullbacks as well. And what happens? Volume increases. You can see other traders start piling in here, and that is confirmed with the volume increase. Look at the volume increase at the exact same time. You know, and that's not a coincidence. The chances that that would all be coincidental is ridiculously low. But again, understanding how to use this and trade ranges is really, really key. And it's a really important thing for you to understand using technical analysis. And again, this system I'm using certainly works. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite systems to date. All right, so checking back up in the chat, BTBT, what's up, Hector? Hey, good afternoon, sir. All right, so now that we've talked about that, we're going to go ahead and clear this out, and we've talked about a few different strategies and patterns using the system. The last thing I really want to leave you guys with for this show is, remember, guys, building a reliable system takes time. Do not rush it and understand when a strategy is not working for you. Don't stay rigid and stubborn by trading a strategy that is clearly not working. Listen, a lot of new traders get involved with the market and they watch a video. Maybe they watch my videos. Maybe they watch, you know, whomever's, right? And they pick a specific strategy and then they only trade that strategy. You know, hell or high water, they're trading the same strategy that is simply not working for them. Don't stay so rigid in your system that you don't branch out and learn other strategies. Because listen, strategies are not universal. Everybody is not suited to trade the same strategies. Think about it this way. I'm impatient and I'm skeptical. And so what do I do if I'm impatient and skeptical? I scout positions, you know, where somebody more patient and somebody more optimistic might prefer to hold positions longer. They might prefer to take investing or longer term swing trading or options trading, because again, it needs to be suited towards your own personality. It's not universal. Everybody's not the same. Everybody's not going to be able to have success with the same strategies. You have to condition yourself to trade the right strategies for your specific personality, and that takes time. Don't stay stubborn. If you're trading a strategy and it's not working, it could either be you're trading it under the wrong market conditions, under the wrong stocks, or it's simply not a strategy that's well suited towards your personality. That's something you really want to understand. Trade different strategies. Try different ones out. And once you find one that works for you, that you show consistency with, that actually gives you the results you're looking for, then you can master that strategy. You know, I'm not saying you should trade a million strategies. I'm saying trade one. But make sure you do your research and find one that has an edge for you and that suits your personality. It's the biggest thing that you can do in trading, and it's something that a lot of new traders don't do. You know, a lot of new traders just buy a course and trade the strategies that are in that course, and then they don't understand. They don't understand why it's not working. They don't understand why they're struggling. They don't understand why they can't find consistency. And again, it's because they're trading the wrong strategies. It's not universal, and it's something that traders have to figure out themselves most of the time. Also, risk reward and accuracy correlate off of each other. If you look at my specific system here, and let's take a look at the results of this system again. If we look at the specific system that I've been talking about, and we look at my accuracy rates here, guys, my accuracy is not incredible. My accuracy rate is on average 54%. The difference is that my wins are twice as big as my losses, right? And so with my wins being twice as big as my losses, if I have anything over 50% accuracy, I'm making money. And again, you can see this system made a little bit over $1,300 last month, just trading these same scalping systems over and over again. And we're taking small short-term positions. We're not using huge sizing. We're not taking big risks. We're simply taking small size, and we're scalping these different momentum strategies using the VWAP to identify the trend. And we're doing that over and over and over again until it stops working. Once it stops working, we're cutting losses incredibly quickly, and we're moving on with our trading day. I will say that a lot of traders are profitable traders. They just have these big drawdowns in their account and that they can't rebound from. They have these huge drawdowns in their account that they simply cannot rebound from, where if they just condition themselves to cut losses when they need to, then they would be profitable. But what happens, guys, and I'm sure everybody's been in that moment where you're losing, you don't want to exit the position, so you hold on to it. Maybe you add to a losing trade, and then what happens? You end up bag holding a position, having this big, huge loss, this big drawdown in your account when you were otherwise profitable. And that is going to happen to everybody regardless, but it's certainly going to happen more often if you don't condition yourself to cut losses. Like for my specific scalping system, I'm getting in and out incredibly fast. I am not holding on to risk long, and I don't mind jumping back into a trade if I need to. I don't mind jumping back into a position if I got faked out already. Again, I can trade as much as I want. I don't need to hold on to risk that long. And that's something that you have to condition yourself through repetition to do the right way. You know, a lot of trading is just repetition. It's one of the reasons it takes most traders a long time to really get good at it, is because, you know, when you're new, when you're fresh, when you're green, you simply haven't gotten your reps in enough to where you're doing the correct things automatically, right? You have to think about it. Emotions kind of play a bigger factor in the beginning. And so if you want to get good at trading, if any type of trading, swing trading, day trading, investing, regardless of what it is, you have to get the experience. You have to condition yourself through repetition. It's like Pavlov and the dog. You know, you have to do it over and over and over again until the right moves, the right decisions become second nature. You don't have to think about them. You don't have to worry about them. You're automatically going to do the correct thing. And again, that takes a lot of repetition. That takes a lot of conditioning, but it's certainly possible to be successful and make money in day trading. And again, I'm an example of this. These are I promise you, these are my 100% real strategies, 100% my real results. And it's something I'm very proud about. It's not huge wins. It's not $10,000 a month. Instead, it's small wins that I'm able to capitalize on over and over and over again and build a profitable system doing so. And so I hope that makes sense. All right, guys. So we got about 7 minutes until the show's over. While we're here, if you guys have any questions, I guess we could do a Q&A. I thought Mitch said that he was going to join the show. Let me check. I don't know if Mitch is going to join or not. But yeah. If you guys have any questions before we close it down, let me know. And if not, you know, we'll be here tomorrow morning. Should be fun. If you want to check out my channel specifically, guys, I'll go ahead and post this. We did have a video breakdown of the system I'm using in a little bit more thorough way. Yeah, if you guys want to check out the latest video from my channel where we really break down the strategy and system, check it out here. And make sure you go subscribe to the channel, guys. Again, we day trade live on stream for free every single weekday morning, starting very early in the morning. We get up at like 4 a.m. my time. I think it's like 5 a.m. market time. And, you know, we start our stream at like 4:30, 5 a.m. market time, or 6:30 or 5:30, 6 a.m. market time. And yeah, we trade the market live every single day into the opening bell, after the opening bell. So yeah, y'all hit the subscribe button on the channel. Can you provide an example of small size for BTBT? So the first thing, Sasha, and that's a great question, by the way. So I applaud your question, or, you know, very much, because I think it's a really good thing to understand here. you don't want to use a universal share size. And so I think that's I will tell you this, Sasha, I think you're thinking correctly, because a lot of traders use a universal share size. They'll say, oh, well, I'm just going to use 200 shares universally, right? The problem with that is that a $10 stock can have a larger range than a $100 stock. So if you use 200 shares on the wrong stock, you're about to lose a ton of money. You're going to lose way more than average. And so instead of using a universal share size, you need to look at the range of a specific stock and then compensate your share size according to the risk you're taking in that trade. And so to give you an example of this, if say I jump into this trade right here. Okay, so say I want to buy this pullback right here. Or say I buy the stock, say I buy BTBT right here. And say I give myself a risk level of the low right here. So, our risk level in this case is 35. We enter this one at 45. Okay, so that's a 10-cent risk. Our risk is this, right? If we're in this trade and if we analyze this and we understand, okay, this is a 10-cent risk and we don't want to lose over $100, then we can take 1,000 shares or less. If we don't want to lose over $50, then we can take 500 shares or less. And so you want to look at what your risk is in a specific trade according to the range that you're trading. And then you want to compensate your share size appropriately. For me specifically, to be honest, small sizing for me is, for BTBT, 1 to 200 shares is small size for me. But that might be huge size for somebody else. And that might be ridiculously small size for somebody else. And so it's a subjective thing. Everybody's not really the same. But for me personally, again, for BTBT, 1 to 200 shares would be considered small size for me. My average gain per trade is about $20 to $30. But I'm getting into 20 to 25 trades a day. And so you can see how that would add up. David says, if the broker app doesn't have VWAP, is there anything that can be used as a substitute? Not really. Now, what I generally do is I'm always using Thinkorswim, TD Ameritrade's Thinkorswim for my trading. So even if I'm using Webull or even if I'm using Robinhood or wherever, right? Regardless of where I'm going to trade, I'm usually still looking at TD Ameritrade charts. And so I know TradingView has charts that you can use the VWAP. I know Webull has the VWAP. I know TD Ameritrade has the VWAP. And so you want to find a broker. If you really want to use the VWAP, you got to find a broker that has it and then just look at that chart. You don't have to actually trade with that specific broker. You can just look at the chart and then trade somewhere else. And that's a very common thing. I've been doing that on TD Ameritrade for a long time until I finally had the money myself to trade on TD Ameritrade. And now that I do, I trade on TD Ameritrade with a 30,000 plus account. And again, with a 30,000 plus account on TD Ameritrade, 1 to 200 shares is still about smaller average sizing. I'm not taking huge wins. I'm getting the 30, 40 trades, $30, $40 wins, over and over and over again. Right. P says, David, you can use Webull charts for free. Absolutely. 100%. No worries, Sasha. I appreciate the support. Anyone to look out for in particular this week? Think 3 to 4 stocks. We're looking at BTBT, BDR, FTFT, of course, we're going to look at Bitcoin stocks coming soon. We've got KXIN moving a little bit in after hours. We have MVST, Wall Street Bet Stock, or MVST, I'm sorry, Wall Street Bet Stock, really interesting. So, yeah, y'all check those out. But, yeah, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Good luck. Again, if you want to check out the system breakdown of the video I'm using, you want to see a video breakdown of the system I'm using, check this out. Hit that subscribe button when you go watch this video, guys. We break it down in a really thorough way, and I certainly appreciate it. And yeah, remember to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button right here on Benzinga. I appreciate everyone joining us for today's show. And yeah, good luck in the market, guys. For those that watch my live stream every weekday morning, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning, bright and early, and we'll see if we can, keep the green streak alive. We had a green week last week, green week before then, and we'll see if we can get another one this week. Good luck, guys. Thank you for all the support. And yeah, here's that video if you want to check it out. We just posted it in the chat. Go watch it. Go subscribe. And we'll see you guys later.